So today we'll be looking at verse 31 of the 37 practices of Bodhisattvas. So this verse says, if you don't examine your own errors, you may look like a practitioner, but not act as one. Therefore, always examining your own errors, rid yourself of them. This is the practice of Bodhisattvas. So when I was thinking about this verse and trying to decide what to talk about, I remembered the very first meeting that I had with my teacher, Lama Zopa Rinpoche. This was way back, 1973, and I was in Dharamsala. I had been there a couple of months and had been going to classes at the Tibetan library. So that was like my first formal learning of Buddhism. And I became friends with one English nun. There were very few Western monks and nuns at that time, just 1 or 2, 3, 4 here and there. So I was friends with this one nun, and one day she said, my teacher's coming. Would you like to meet him? And her teacher was Lama Zopa Rinpoche. So I said, sure. And so she set up an appointment, an interview with me and him, and it took place at Tushita Meditation Center. So I walked in, and I had a question that I wanted to ask, something that had been on my mind. Because in going to the classes at the library, I kept hearing this word Dharma. Dharma, Dharma, Dharma. And I didn't really have a good understanding of what it meant. And I was too shy to ask a question, because my classmates were people like Alex Berzin and John Landau and Brian Beresford, these guys who'd been studying for years and knew Tibetan, and I was just this brand new baby Dharma student, and I was too shy to ask a simple question like that. So here I was just one-to-one with a teacher, and I thought, and he spoke English, which was wonderful. I could speak to him directly, so I thought to ask him. So he launched into this explanation, most of which I don't remember, and I probably didn't understand either. But there was one thing he said that really hit me and stayed in my mind, so much so that as soon as I got back to my room, I wrote it on a piece of paper and pasted it on the wall next to my bed because I didn't want to forget it. So what he said was that Dharma is like a mirror for our mind. In the same way that we use an ordinary mirror, like a glass mirror, to look at our face, our body, our clothes, our hair, make sure that, nothing is amiss before we go out, fix things up. But with an ordinary mirror, we cannot see inside, can't see our mind, we can only see the outside of us. So the Dharma is like a mirror for seeing our mind and using it in the same way we use an ordinary mirror, to look at our mind and check what's amiss, what's not good, what's kind of dirty or messy, needs to be cleaned up. So somehow I just really like that. I just really like the idea of having a way to look at my mind, which, I thought was completely crazy and out of control, but to look at my mind and work with my mind and fix my mind. And so then how does that work? How does the Dharma enable us to look at our mind and fix our mind? So I think we can look at this threefold process of hearing, thinking, and meditating, which we find in the Lam Rim. Okay, this is the way to come to an understanding and a practice of the Dharma. First we have to hear, which includes both listening to teachings, live teachings, and recently Venerable was talking about how it's important to do that and not just read books or listen to audio recordings or YouTube recordings. There's something about being in the presence of a teacher while teachings are going on, something that you don't get from reading books. So it's really good to have that opportunity whenever possible. But of course, you can supplement that with reading and, listening to things on the internet and so on. But anyways, this is the process of learning Dharma, learning what the Buddha taught, what Dharma is all about, what the teachings are all about. And then the second step is reflecting on what we've learned so that it doesn't just remain as intellectual knowledge, words, but it goes deeper inside and we have an understanding of it. We understand what it really means, what these teachings are really all about. So that makes a deeper level of understanding. And then once we've got a correct understanding of the Dharma, we need to do the third step, which is meditation, contemplation, really deep contemplation, focusing our mind on what we've understood so that it makes very firm imprints in our mind. One teacher used the analogy of marinating, like you do that with meat, but also you can do it with vegetables. You soak the chunks in some kind of sauce with lots of spices and herbs and leave it there for a long time, and then the taste will soak into the food and makes it very tasty. So it's a good analogy what we're trying to do in meditation. We're trying to soak our mind or marinate our mind in the understanding of the Dharma so that it really penetrates and really becomes a firm part of our mind and then of our life and our practice. So if we follow this threefold process, then we understand what Dharma is and how to practice it. And then, of course, we have to do it. We have to put it into practice. And that's the tricky part, actually practicing it. And a big part of the Dharma teachings consists of pointing out mental faults, right? In case you haven't noticed. We have 3 poisons, poisonous states of mind, and we have 6 root afflictions, and we have 20 secondary afflictions, and then all these misconceptions like believing things to be permanent when in fact they're impermanent, believing things to be satisfying when in fact they're not satisfying, thinking things are pure which are in fact impure, and so on. And of course, thinking that things exist inherently when in fact they don't. So there's all kinds of these mistaken states of mind, faulty states of mind. And so that's a big part of the practice of Dharma, is looking at our mind and checking, do I have these faulty states of mind, which we probably do, but then being willing to acknowledge that and understand how they are faulty. How they cause suffering for ourselves and others and so forth, and then working on them, applying antidotes to them. And of course this takes time. In the beginning I was very enthusiastic. I wanted to get rid of all my delusions like that, no more anger, no more attachment. And I was really frustrated. After my first retreat, I went to Lama Yeshe and I said, Mama, I still have so much attachment in my mind. I was really upset. I really thought, okay, I don't want any more attachment, any more anger, so I should be able to just get rid of it like that. So it's not like that. It takes time. So the Lamas always say, slowly, slowly. You can't be like a mushroom, mushroom students, like overnight, you're suddenly a Buddha. It takes time, and we have to have a lot of patience and kindness to ourselves and so on. So I had to learn all of those things. But that's the real essence of the Dharma. And I've heard the Dalai Lama mention this a couple of times in his teachings, and I really liked hearing it. He said the essence of the Dharma, the essence of Buddhism, is working on the mind to bring about a transformation of the mind. Transforming the mind, meaning reducing and eventually eliminating the negative states of mind, those that lead to suffering and problems, samsara and so on. Getting rid of those and developing the positive states of mind, the ones that lead to happiness and peace and eventually liberation and enlightenment. So that's the real essence of Dharma. Dharma practice is looking at our mind, working on our mind, and gradually bringing about this positive transformation. So it's important to keep that in mind and not think that, practicing Dharma is all about, decorating yourself with paraphernalia, or decorating. I mean, people go to India, people go to Nepal, or they go online now. You can buy all this stuff online and get all this paraphernalia, Tibetan Buddhist paraphernalia, great big malas and vajras and bells and tankas and brocade this and, all these things, and decorate their house, even their car. I remember in Singapore sometimes seeing people in their cars, on the dashboard of the car. They'd have a whole altar there, with statues, vajra bells, things that are supposed to be secret, and have them right out there on the dashboard of the car. I don't know, maybe they had a good motivation for doing that, but it just looked a little strange. And then, decorating ourselves as well, wearing all these things. So that's not the point. I'm sure you know that. But I think sometimes people do pay too much attention to the external aspects of Dharma, and that's not the point. The point is working on the mind. Of course, it's fine to have tankas and statues and malas and so on, as long as we're using them for that purpose, to bring about a transformation of our mind. Okay, so let's try to put this into practice. Try to be a genuine practitioner, not just someone who looks like one, but isn't really doing so in a genuine way. Okay, thank you.